Northwest Insurance. Auto, business, home, and more. Who said insurance was born? Protect your car, protect your family. Northwest Insurance. If you need a helpful team, the best in the community. Grab your phone, what are you waiting for? Northwest Insurance. Northwest Insurance.
Hola, 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 and welcome again to Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas, sponsored by Northwest Insurance Agency. I'm your host, Mark Villasana, and joining me as always is my BFF, marketing manager for Northwest Insurance. She's got that Jewish flair beyond repair, Miss Lila Levy. Hello, Lila. How are you doing?
Shalom, Mark. How are you?
Shalom to you. I like that. You're mixing it in.
I am. Like and for those who don't know, shalom is Hebrew for hello, goodbye, or peace. So peace, Mark.
Peace to you, Lila. I prefer Archie Bunker's. What did Archie Bunker say?
Shaboom.
Shaboom. Shaboom to you, Lila.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. You know, I've got my Trenta coffee ready to go with 7 shots of espresso, not decaf this morning either. My favorite barista made it for me. I'm good to go.
Oh my goodness. 7 shots?
7 shots. Yeah, she made it. She knows when to amp it up and when to make it decaf and when to make it really caffeinated.
Expect a visit from me and your 6 of your closest friends, Lila. We're going to talk to you about 3 or 4 hours.
I'll serve you each a coffee.
Do not bring your phone, okay? And plan to be gone for at least the weekend. Anything new, exciting happening new?
Not much. I'm very excited about our guest today. That's what I'm going to tell you is news. Truly.
You keep doing it. I don't know how you do it, but you keep finding these fabulous guests. We've had Gordon Keith on. A couple weeks ago, we had Elizabeth Villafranca on, who was running for Farmers Branch City Council, District 4. And guess what? She won. Yes, congratulations to Elizabeth.
That's very exciting, truly.
I think that woman definitely has a future in politics with higher aspirations. I could see her running for statewide and even nationwide.
She's fantastic. Her energy and her activism. I'm really, really happy for her.
Just her being cool enough to come on. You know, she didn't know us from
a hole in the ground.
I know. I want to say we were the good luck. Let's just put it that we were the good luck charm.
You are. I don't know if I am, but you are.
I did volunteer.
You did.
I did.
You did. That was really nice.
Well, she deserved it because she really inspired me, and not only me, she inspired my daughters. I was telling my daughters about her, and anyway, really inspiring. But that's what you do. You get us great guests. We have a couple of great guests coming up, including Victor Rojas, who was the former GM of the Jose restaurant.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's opening up a new restaurant with Anastasia Quinones Pittman.
Later this year.
Who's a celebrity chef here in Dallas.
Yeah, but they both were at Jose.
They both were at Jose. Okay, so they're going to be opening a new restaurant, and Victor's going to be here. And then also we're going to have Dawn Weeks Spalding and Billy Martin Jr., who are very successful marketing and media specialists and talent bookers here in Dallas. And Dawn's a personal friend of yours.
Well, yeah, Victor is a personal friend as well. I used to work for Victor at a restaurant in 1999, and then again in, I think, 2002. I was a hostess at 2 different restaurants where he was a GM, and he is a GM. He is a restaurant force to be reckoned with from A to Z. And Dawn, and I'm not just saying this just because I've known them both so long, but Dawn is really a marketing guru, force to be reckoned with. I've known her for a little bit longer than I've known Victor, and she's in charge of development at the North Dallas Chamber. That's what she does Monday through Friday. But she also has her own business with Billy Martin Jr., and they book talent, and she's amazing in marketing as well. So I'm really excited that we, not only for our guests today, but for our upcoming guests, it makes us feel so good as podcasters, really.
Oh, I mean, the objective of the podcast was to cover everything Dallas. And
yes.
I think we've done that. Like I said, we had some from the sports world. We've had someone from the political world. And a little hint to our guest is today, we're going to have someone from the public relations field who has stories beyond stories.
Yes.
Lila. I mean, the fascinating life this person has lived is incredible. And I can't wait to get to talk to them. But before that, believe it or not, and we have to do it, I don't want to do it, but we have to do it. We got to talk about insurance.
Insurance junkies, perk your ears up.
This is what all the insurance junkies in the world are waiting for, is for us to talk about insurance, right? I can imagine. So get your pens and papers ready. Today, we're going to talk about general liability insurance. Specifically, Lila, I want to talk about the slander or the personal injury portion, because that really correlates to who our guest is, because they are in the PR field. In a nutshell, Lila, general liability insurance can cover almost any type of business, even a lemonade stand. Did you have a lemonade stand when you were a little girl?
I did not have a lemonade stand, but I did have another kind of stand.
Please do tell. I have to hear this.
I had a matzo ball soup stand. I really did. I decided to, because heaven forbid that I go the normal route that most people go. I mean, why? So I decided matzo ball soup. My mom made really, really good matzo balls. She really did. Esther was phenomenal at it. And my sister became phenomenal at it. And so I decided, why not?
I'm guessing your peak time was during the summer?
Yeah, July.
Yeah, that is, gosh. Always thinking outside the box.
Or like thinking weird. Well, I don't know.
You said it, not me. General liability insurance could have even covered your matzo ball soup stand.
Yes.
Gosh, I wish I would have been there to try some. Anyway, general liability insurance here in the state of Texas is like a safety net. We use that word a lot, safety net, for businesses. It helps cover the cost if someone claims your business caused injury or property damage. And there's three main caveats to general liability insurance, which there seem to be three main caveats in almost all these policies.
I know. I've noticed
weird.
that.
Yeah. I think maybe the authors of these just got tired after three.
Yeah, I think so.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one of the main ones that it covers is bodily injury and property damage. And that means if someone gets hurt on a business's property or is damaged because of the business, this insurance helps pay for the medical bills or repairs. Another thing this policy covers, Lila, is personal and advertising injury. That covers claims like slander, copyright infringement, or false advertising that could harm someone's reputation. I really want to focus on the word slander because, again, of who our guest is. And finally, general liability covers medical payments. That pays for medical expenses if someone gets injured on your business premises, even if you're not legally responsible. So even if you get sued and you get taken to court and the court finds that your business was not legally responsible, your general liability policy could still pay the injured party out. So it's really a broad safety net.
Yeah.
We use that word, I guess, because there's no other word to use. In a nutshell, that's what general liability is. And I mentioned the word slander a couple times because it's very relevant to our guest is. She has to be very wary that her clients are never slandered against. And I can almost guarantee you she would never slander anyone because she's so
amazing and professional.
Exactly.
So
she
professional.
Knows her craft. She knows her craft.
Yes.
Yeah. So, real quick though, libel and slander is that if a business publicly makes false statements that damages someone's reputation. So that's why we just talked about general liability today, and we discussed this type of policy because of the slander portion. So I tell you what, we've gotten the insurance portion out of the way. So we checked that off. When we come back, we're going to introduce our very special guest.
Okay. That sounds great.
Okay.
I can't wait.
All right. You've been listening to Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila, and we will be right back.
In Texas, the road is part of who we are. From Dallas traffic to Hill Country back roads, you need coverage that keeps up. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to serve Texans with the best home, auto and business insurance paired with honest rates, real protection, and local agents who understand life around here. Call us for a quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com.
Okay, we are back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas. Lila, it's about time to introduce our special guest, and I'm so excited just talking to her. And before we were recording, just the story she has. I mean, and just we can take this anywhere, but
I kind of want to have a party to honor her and her just tell stories for like 5 hours.
She really does need to be honored here in Dallas.
Yeah.
I mean, she's
really seriously
played a part not only in Dallas but in the state of Texas. But we will get to it all.
Okay. I need to calm down.
You're trying to be the star of the show. The guests are the star of the show.
I took those 7 shots really took.
I'm saying, like, the friends are on the way. I'm going to make a phone call. The friends are coming.
Oh my God!
You keep acting like this, we're going to have that intervention. Okay, let's get to our guest, Lila. She is an institution here in the public relations field in Dallas. If anyone important has come through Dallas in the last 50 years, Lila, I bet you anything she either knows them or has met them. She is a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, where she was named the top broadcasting co-ed in the United States by the American Women of Radio and Television. She then went on to work in New York and had several jobs there for CBS Television, including an assistant producer on CBS's famed game show Password with host Alan, is it Ludden?
Ludden.
Okay. Who's better known as Betty White's husband, longtime husband.
Yeah.
She later became friends with both of them, personal friends of them. She was also an executive assistant to President Lyndon Baines Johnson, and she served as press secretary for First Lady Lady Bird Johnson, among many other duties she did for the Johnson family. She then worked as a director of a big advertising firm here in the Dallas area before starting her own PR firm in 1982. Her client list has included Bloomingdale's, Neiman Marcus, Sheraton Hotels, the Fairmont Hotels, and the Dallas Arboretum and Botanical Gardens, among many others. Lila, this person is so well connected that when she was asked who she would like to have at her fantasy dinner, she replied, "When you have sat on the beach in Acapulco, Mexico with LBJ discussing the day's news, been the fourth at breakfast with Lady Bird Johnson, Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, and Katharine Graham at her Washington post office, had Greer Garson and Carol Channing in your home, and been introduced to Audrey Hepburn and Princess Grace, who else could you ask for more?" Wow.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful right there. I cannot believe the life this person's lived. Ladies and gentlemen, and insurance podcast stalkers all over the world, please join me in welcoming PR Dallas legend Martha Tiller. Hello, Martha.
Hi, good morning, Martha.
That is quite an introduction for quite a life you have lived.
It's been fun.
I mean, to say the least. First of all, let me say thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, I cannot tell you what an honor it is to be interviewing you. I really don't know where to begin, but I guess I'll just start with the beginning. Can you tell me a little about where exactly you were born and where your family originated from?
Well, I'm a country girl.
Okay.
My dad was a farmer rancher in Central Texas, multiple properties, and Temple, Texas, Scott and White Hospital was the closest medical center, so that's where I was born.
In Temple, Texas. Okay.
Okay.
And did your family always stay there in that area, or did y'all eventually move?
Well, my father was killed 4 days after I turned 6.
Oh, goodness.
And so I was the only child. My mom was many years younger, 12 years younger than my dad. So we kind of grew up together and moved into town in Bertram, Texas, and lived there for a while. It was a house, an old historic house they were in the process of restoring. So she finished it, and we lived there, and I went to school 4 years in Bertram, Texas.
And you graduated there from Bertram High?
No. She decided, she became a banker because some friends had a bank, and she worked there. And anyway, they decided that we should move to Austin for my education. Mm-hmm. So we moved to Austin, and she went to work for the Austin National Bank, which ultimately became a part of Republic Bank.
Okay. And is it, you graduated then in Austin High? Or
Stephen F. Austin High School graduate.
So then you went on to the University of Texas.
The University of Texas.
Okay.
I finished in 3 years because I was anxious to get, I don't know why, I was anxious to get in the business world.
Which you then, where did you take your first steps in the business world?
I've never been. I didn't have a job. I did have a place to live. I went to New York City to live in the Barbizon Hotel, which was for proper young women.
Nice.
And what made you make that decision? Did you know someone in New York, or you just knew that New York was the hub of the type of work you wanted to do?
Well, I had a guy friend in New York who'd been in the drama club and had been a drama major. Okay. So he'd gone to New York to try to do dramatic things, and he'd been there about a year. So I did know him. Okay.
So you moved to New York, and did you immediately start to work, or did it take you a while to find employment?
It took me about 3 weeks was all. I was interviewed by Ed Sullivan, Leland Hayward on Broadway, Alan Funt, who had a popular television show. But I didn't get any of those jobs because I couldn't take shorthand.
So when you say you were interviewed, you were actually interviewed by these people?
Well, by their
companies. Okay,
yes.
so you interviewed these companies. You ended up finally, your first job was
At CBS Television.
And doing what?
And my first job was coordinating commercials, because in those days you had to make sure that the format, whether it was a slide or a visual or what, matched between the
with the audio.
And
Okay.
so it was a job I heard that 100 people at the network wanted, and they all hated me because I got it, and I hated it because it wasn't in production.
Oh.
So you wanted, but that was not production when you.
No, I was just putting the commercials together.
That was early production.
So down the road, they were starting a new program, and I happened to know the producer of that program I'd met at the network. So he said, well, you can go to work for me, but I had to go take the steno test.
And what is the steno test?
Shorthand.
Oh, the shorthand, which you did
test.
not know.
I didn't know shorthand.
Right.
So I kept taking it and taking it and taking it, and I failed. So I went back to him and I said, listen, they sat me down to a machine. This was way before technology. They sat me down to a machine that read at 3 different rates. And of course, I couldn't take any of it down. And if you're not careful, they're going to replace you by a machine.
Wow.
So I got the job.
Oh.
They must have been impressed.
I went to the Y at night to learn some shorthand, but I figured out I could make up quicker than I could do.
So you had the shorthand, if you will.
Yeah.
Like
I love that.
So, tell me about your transition from Austin to New York. Were you immediately enthralled by the city, or was it a little scary? I mean, you seem
I loved it.
I was about to say, you don't seem to be afraid of anything. So,
what did you love about it? Is it because I love. I'm obsessed with New York.
Obsessed.
And part of it is the frenzy. I love as soon as I get into LaGuardia and I come out of the airplane hangar, I just feel the frenzy and I feel like I'm at home. Was it frenetic like that too back then?
Absolutely. I loved the diversity of the population, the way people dressed. I loved dining at all the wonderful restaurants. And I loved going to Broadway shows. And
So you're never intimidated by it, always just fascinated by it.
It was just fun.
Awesome. So tell me how you ended up on the Password Game Show.
Well, working at the network, I couldn't get to become an associate director or anything, because those were union jobs and only males were in the union.
Correct.
Girls couldn't get in.
Time, yes.
So they wouldn't have me. And finally, somebody at the network, friend, said, hey, Tex, they call me Tex. I hear that they're looking for somebody over Password. You might go and apply. So I did, because Mark Goodson and Bill Todman, the famous producers of the show, they had a female at the time who was the head of one of their shows. And so I applied for Password.
And you became an assistant producer?
Assistant to the producer.
Assistant to the producer.
Password. But it wasn't because I had any talent. It was because he was married to a girl from Texas. So he thought that'd be cool.
The Texas thread again. Texas thread. Well, it served you well.
It served you well. Texas is Texas.
Better be from Texas, y'all.
That's right. That's right. So you eventually became personal friends with the host and his wife, Betty White, correct?
Right. Alan Ludden was from Corpus Christi, and he had taught at Texas. Not while I was there, but anyway, so I didn't know him. We became friends. Of course, Betty was a frequent guest, and they would have staff to their home for holidays. So we were all friends.
That's awesome. I have to ask, because Betty White is so beloved. Everyone has their own picture of what Betty White must be like. Tell me, was Betty White as advertised? Was she?
All of the above.
Really?
And isn't it wonderful They've done a stamp recently.
Yes, they
with
have.
Betty White.
Look at that. Look at those
awesome.
stamps.
That must mean a lot to you, having known her
I mean,
personally.
it really does. She deserved
Yeah.
it, and I wish she knew. I bet she does know.
She does know. I bet you she.
I mean, she lived to be almost 100. Wasn't it like a month short?
Yeah, she just missed being 100.
Yeah. That's
I feel
amazing.
so blessed because, and here, this was a Lady Bird Johnson stamp.
Uh-huh.
This is a
That
pin.
pin that you have on.
And
Yeah.
I was blessed to know 2 women who had made stamps. There are not very many women. You can probably count them on your one hand.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Who have made a
stamps.
stamp.
Yeah, and you've known two. You know personally. When I was introducing her, it was impressive, but in talking to her for 5 minutes is even twice as impressive.
I know.
So,
I know.
So you knew Betty White, and you were personal friends with them, and you had mentioned earlier that Betty White had given you a personal gift.
Oh, yes. When we got married,
Yeah.
Alan and Betty gave us a set of glasses.
Okay.
I should have brought a glass, but I didn't want to break it.
Yeah.
They were from Tiffany's.
Wow. And you still have
Nice.
those? You still have them?
Still have them and still use them.
She seems like, so the what I imagine she's like, I know that she was a big animal lover, and she just seems like she was very generous and very thoughtful. And it sounds like what I thought she seemed like she definitely was.
Absolutely.
Would that be right?
Absolutely.
And
Was
her-
Alan like that as well?
Yes.
And they shared like a deep, deep love for each other, didn't they? Weren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that,
He met her because she was a guest on the show.
Oh, so that's how they
And
met.
That's how they met.
were
Okay.
you working with that?
Oh, no, they were already married.
They were already married.
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you have a chance to meet any other celebrities or get to know these celebrities in your time in New York?
Well, my job on Password as assistant to the producer was to entertain the celebrities before they went on air. So I had to have seen their play or their movie or something so we could have a little chit chat.
So for those who don't know, Password was a very famous show in the 60s, and did it continue in the 70s?
It was a long running show.
game show where
Well,
they had.
and of course, Jimmy Fallon now is sort of
Oh,
creating.
he brought it back, hadn't he? Yeah.
I need to call Jimmy and tell
You
him how
do.
the real show.
Tell them
Maybe
how
I'll
it's
do
there.
that.
You should. I'm sure they take your
If
call.
he invites you up there, can you take me as the plus
Yes,
one?
Lila has a Jimmy Fallon.
I
role.
love Jimmy Fallon.
It was a show, and it still is, where they have celebrity guests on and try to guess the word without saying the actual word. So, and it was very, very popular at the time.
Extremely popular.
Yeah, very. So, so you met. You said you got to interview all these celebrities. Can you name a few that that stood out in your mind from your time there?
Well, I just have a few here.
Okay,
Dean
please.
Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Wow,
Uh,
together or separately?
No, they were together at the same
Wow,
time.
okay.
Carol Channing, who wore a ring around her neck and it was always banging against the microphone. Arthur Godfrey, Peter Lawford. My first night in the studio, they sent me across the street to buy some alcohol for Peter.
Now, did Peter Lawford try to hit on you?
No, because he was there with his girlfriend that
Okay.
night. And it came a rainstorm. And so I got soaking wet walking across the street. We were in the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Mm.
And the costume lady put me in one of Carol Channing's work dresses so I wouldn't be wet to work the rest of the night. James and Gloria Stewart.
Wow.
Oh, Jimmy Stewart. Nice.
I liked him. It was cool.
Wow. And all these celebrities. Did anybody stand out as being God? I'd say I don't have another word other than awful or.
Well, and Lucille Ball, for example, I was sitting
Wow.
around talking to Lucille Ball about putting braces on little Lucy's teeth.
Oh, now, was Lucille Ball approachable and nice to talk to?
She was Lucille Ball.
Okay.
That's great. Well,
Okay.
I'll tell you what. I want to hear some more about your time on Password, and then we'll transition into you. She had time in the political field,
Yeah.
and then she started her own PR firm. I mean, it could go on. The list goes on and on. I also want to talk about. She saw a very famous musical performance that we all know and goes down in history. So you've been listening to Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila, and we will be back with Mrs. Martha Tiller.
Running a business is unpredictable, but with the right insurance, you can face the unexpected with confidence. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we protect what matters most: your people, your property, and your future. Whether it's liability, property, or workers' comp, we tailor coverage to fit your business needs. Because when you're covered, you can focus on what really matters: growing your business, Call us today for a free quote at 1-855-887-5656 or visit us at nwagencies.com. Northwest Insurance Agency, protection that works as hard as you do.
Okay, we are back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila, with Mrs. Martha Tiller, a Dallas PR legend. Martha, you were talking about your time in New York and all the different celebrities you met, and we could actually do a whole podcast on all the celebrities you met in New York alone on that, Lila. But unfortunately, our time is limited. So let's move on to after New York. Tell me what you did after you left New York, and why did you leave New York?
Well, I left New York to come back to Texas and marry my cowboy sweetheart, who is not a cowboy, he's a gourmet cook. But he was returning from Vietnam.
Okay.
So I'd seen him one day in 5 years before we got married.
Wow, really?
Because
Wow.
we were engaged in college, end of college, separation.
Okay.
I wanted a career, and I didn't want to be a military wife, and he had been in the ROTC, so he had to, become a first lieutenant or whatever in the Army.
Wow, so it's kind of like an invisible string thing. Y'all just kept being brought back together.
But he got to escort media executives like the Dan Rathers of the world to the front line.
I would say he married up. I mean,
he had a broadcast job.
He got a lot of bonuses by being married to you. You got to meet a lot of people, didn't he?
We had fun.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Now, I do have a question. Take us back a step to when you were in New York about a certain birthday party that you went to. So before we totally move on from New York, tell us about that birthday party that happened to be at Madison Square Garden, I believe.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Kennedy's birthday party.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
wasn't it his 40th birthday, I think?
I think so. Uh-huh.
Well, I guess through political connections. I don't know. I happened to get a ticket. And Madison Square Garden, 2 tickets. And it's built, it was in the round.
Uh-huh.
And so my date and I were sitting fairly close down, and right across the stage from us was the president and his entourage. So, and it was not a time when the general public knew anything about rumors of Marilyn and Kennedy. So the lights went down. It was time for Marilyn to come on. Nothing happened. And I saw President Kennedy take a lighter out of his pocket and flip it and look at the program. So I nudged my date and I said, ho, ho, he wants to know when Marilyn Monroe is coming out, don't we all?
Yeah.
So finally, Frank Sinatra or somebody came out and sang, and then somebody else, and whatever. It was a star-studded evening. Well, finally the lights went down, and then came up, and Marilyn Monroe literally slithered out in that dress, that famous dress.
The famous dress, yes.
And she breathed, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." Well, of course, everybody was on the edge of their seats. Everybody, male, female, everybody in the room. It was quite a performance.
Now, did the after effects ruffle as many feathers, as it seemed to at the time?
Well, that night, not necessarily, but of course, publicity afterwards
Right.
Revealed some of the rumors and whatever. And it was not too long after that, guys, Marilyn was dead.
Wow.
And in recent years, there's been a story that a Rolex watch came up for auction at a big auction house, and it had engraved on the back, to the president, love Marilyn. So I think the family never let him have or wear it.
You couldn't bring that around to family gatherings.
No.
Wow.
We're like 5 minutes in, and we've already gotten Betty White, JFK, Marilyn. We're only getting started. This is awesome. So you were at that famous birthday party. Were you aware at the time of how historical it was? I mean, just from the no, you're just a girl.
That's what I was just wanting to ask.
Yeah.
Just aware of the
moment.
It was a fun event.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just a girl.
But I love how you said to your date, Well, he's wondering when she's coming out too.
I mean, we all wanted to see Marilyn.
So after your time there on Password, you returned with your husband, your college sweetheart, to y'all settled in Dallas.
No. Well, we first had to go to El Paso because Nixon was president, and he would not let officers out of the army.
Okay, so he was stationed in El Paso.
So he was in El Paso.
Okay,
and so we were there for almost a year, I think, before he could be released. And so when he got out of the army, then we decided to go to Austin.
Oh, to Austin. Okay.
Tell me a little bit about your entry into the political hemisphere. I know you ended up working at one point for Texas governor, or was it former Texas governor at the time, John Connally? Or was
no, he was governor.
He was governor. Okay, how'd you end up in the governor's office?
He established the first Texas Fine Arts Commission. And probably not a lot of people know, he was big in drama and had studied drama at the University of Texas at Austin. And had been in the drama club, curtain club, whatever. And so he wanted to put the spotlight on the arts in Texas. The chairman of the board of this first group was one fellow named Ted Strauss, husband of Annette Strauss, brother of, guess who? Strauss, who was Democratic Party chairman. Bob Strauss.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Bob Strauss,
So,
yes.
Ted was politically connected as well.
And Annette was the former mayor of Dallas.
And
she served as mayor for Dallas for how many terms? A couple terms, I think. She was.
Well, she didn't become the mayor until after that.
Yeah, but
she was big in Taka. And so when we first moved to Dallas, we didn't really know anybody much but Annette. And she got us involved in Taka.
So you were working for the governor when the Kennedy assassination?
No, this was after.
But this after, okay.
This was after.
Did he
I was in New York at the time at CBS Television.
Yeah, you were in
the day of the assassination.
Center of the media hub. What was the reaction there at the time?
Well, that particular day, I had lunch in the staff cafeteria and was getting on the elevator to go up to my office, and somebody yelled, "Hey, Tex! Your governor has been shot down in Dallas with the president." So I stepped off, went immediately to my desk. Of course, I had a television on my desk, and a floor above me was Walter Cronkite in his studio, removing his glasses and saying, "The president is dead."
So you were that close to. That's another famous moment in television where Walter Cronkite takes the glasses off and actually tears up when he's announcing.
Absolutely,
yeah, that's incredible. That's another little string of history that she was a part of. So you eventually did end up working for Texas Governor John Connally. What capacity did you were on the fine? He got you involved in the fine arts. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how long did you do that for,
Martha? Probably a year.
Okay.
Maybe a year and a half.
And how did the transition come to working for former President LBJ?
Well, during the period that I was doing this work was the opening of the LBJ Library. And so my husband and I and another young couple, she was the daughter of the general manager of their television station, but we were friends and knew each other. And I had interned as a college student at their television station. Anyway, so the four of us were co-chairs to host the visiting dignitaries at the opening of the LBJ Library. And because there was only just one hotel, the Driscoll Hotel, and it wouldn't accommodate all of the visitors. Right. So it was late May between semesters, and we turned Hardin House, which was a new fancy girls' dormitory, and we turned it into a luxury hotel for the weekend. And we were the bellboys and the desk clerks and so forth. And I remember escorting a guy up, the elevator, and he said, "Sheraton was never like this." And I later learned he was the president of ITT Sheraton.
Oh, goodness. Wow. So, wow, that you impressed him. That's awesome. So you worked for, they summoned you, right? Didn't the president summon you to work for you?
All of these VIPs were having so much fun because we kept them entertained. And so I think they were missing some of the official events. And President Johnson wanted to know what in the H was going on and who in the H was responsible for it.
And guilty as charged. And so he had someone reach out to you, or how did
he called me himself.
The former president of the United States called you directly and says what?
You might as well come to our office, and I need to put you on the payroll. Let's come talk about it.
And you were, yes sir, I'm on my way.
Oh, well, okay, I'll be there.
Of course, yeah. The president's calling. So the next day you're in Mexico. Is that right?
No, not at all.
No.
So he said, my bird needs somebody like you. I'm going to hire you for my bird. That's what he called her. And I said, well, no, sir. I'll do anything for you for free, but I don't want to be on your payroll. Because I had heard, this was back in the day of carbon paper.
Yes.
When you're typing. And so, and I typed 110 words a minute on a manual typewriter, but I couldn't make shorthand. So I said, no, sir, because I'd heard he went through the carbon paper at night in your wastebasket to see what you had done. And I said, I'll do anything for you for free, but I don't want to be on your payroll. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And so we were having dinner with the son of the mayor of Austin a few weeks later. And he said, I hear you're going to work for the president after the first of the year. And I said, well, that's news to me. He said, well, yeah, that's what I hear. So a few days later, I got a call at my office, and the president comes in, and he says, the president of this company, and he says, hey, listen, there's a guy on the phone who says he's the president and he wants to talk to you. I said, yeah, I'll talk to him. And it was President Johnson. And he said, now, Martha, about this job you're going to take. I don't want to take a job. He said, do you think your husband would let you come to Acapulco tomorrow with Bird and me? And I said, well, sir, I'm not so worried about my husband. I'm worried about my boss. Okay, fine. I'll have the Secret Service pick you up at 6 o'clock in the morning, bring you to the ranch, and we're going to Acapulco. He slammed down the phone.
That is incredible. When the president's calling and really telling you you're coming to work for me.
Yeah.
That's doesn't quite have the same effect as when I call you, does it?
No, I just hang up on you.
Yeah,
and I say go pound sand.
Yeah.
So
what do you work? You went here and you were like an event coordinator for him, or what were you doing exactly for the president after? Well,
I wasn't working for him on this trip.
But eventually, did you start to work for him?
Eventually, I had to give in. This is the way he got bills passed.
Yeah,
you have to say yes.
Yeah, so he kind of, from what I've seen video or anything, he comes across as very straightforward, very gruff, this my way or highway. Mm-hmm. As I'm assuming that's the way he was in real life.
Mm-hmm. With everybody,
even his wife, or do you have special affinity?
Well,
for
I think their books have come out recently about her. She was very strong, and he looked up to her. Yeah, and he listened to her.
And you got to know her, and we'll talk about.
So that's that was a good thing.
That is, a man like that probably needs someone to set him straight every once in a while. He did nothing but yes, man. So you worked for him for how many years? Or you worked him until his passing, correct? His passing, yeah. Okay, and then you transitioned to working for his wife.
And then I stayed on with her.
Okay, and you became eventually her press secretary.
Press secretary, social secretary, and director of special projects.
And tell me about the people that held that position while they were in the White House.
Yes, the famous Liz Carpenter.
Who was
press secretary, and Bess Abel, who was the social secretary.
And you later became friends with Liz, right?
Oh, became friends, yeah, with both of them. But they were in the White House, and they had a staff of 100. And I had 5 ranch hands.
Quite a difference.
But about as much. I mean, everybody in the world wanted to come to the ranch to visit.
Here's an important question. Could the ranch hands do shorthand?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Can you tell me a little insight on Lady Bird? You said she was tough. Was she like that all the time?
She was very gracious and very charming, but very smart.
And you happened to be with her, right, when she found out about the passing? I was
with her.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that story. What was going on?
She got a call, and they, of course, all presidential libraries are built to have a helicopter can land. So a helicopter picked her up there and flew her to San Antonio because the president was taken immediately to a hospital in San Antonio.
And was she broken down? Or I'll tell you what, let's take a break real quick. That's a fascinating place. I want to stop there because that's another part of history that she was a part of. I mean, and that's I want to get into that. So let's take a break real quick, and we'll be back. You've been listening to Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila, and we'll be back with Mrs. Martha Tiller.
In the heart of Dallas, we know that life moves fast. And when it does, you need an insurance company that's as reliable as the city we call home. At Northwest Insurance Agency, we're proud to be a part of the Dallas community, offering customized coverage to protect your home, your car, and your family. Whether you're navigating downtown or enjoying a weekend in the suburbs, we've got you covered every step of the way. We're more than just an insurance company. We're your Dallas neighbor, always here to help. Northwest Insurance, proudly serving Dallas.
Okay, we are back on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas with Mark and Lila. We've been talking to the fascinating Mrs. Martha Tiller. She was telling us a little about being with Lady Bird Johnson the day she found out the president passed away. You actually became relatively close to Lady Bird Johnson. Is that correct?
Well, yes, we were together about.
Yeah.
I guess I worked for her 3 years before we moved to Dallas.
Yeah, and she was someone. Did she ever confide in you, or you were part of her everyday life? Correct.
Well, absolutely, because she at that time was. She's always been interested in beautification, and she had the Highway Beautification Awards that annually honored some Texas highwaymen who'd had a beautiful roadside. So I got to produce those for her at the ranch, where we had people like Arthur Godfrey as a special guest or whatever. And one of the times, Rosalind Carter was her guest at the ranch. So I got to know Rosalind because she wanted to do something similar in Georgia. And a couple of years after that, she did start that in Georgia. And Mrs. Johnson was invited to be the guest speaker. And I traveled with Mrs. Johnson to that event.
Awesome.
That's fascinating.
That's a fascinating thing. So I want to talk about some of the other people you become friends with in the entertainment industry or political field. And I know one of them who you have special affinity and became close to was Carol Channing.
Carol Channing,
yes. Tell me a little about that.
Well, and she was friends of the Johnsons through singing. Of course, she was the famous Hello Dolly star.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And she, when President Johnson was running on his own after he served out Kennedy's term, and she came up with Hello Lyndon, Hello Lyndon, well, Hello Lyndon. Well, of course, so they loved her,
right?
And she was a frequent guest, at the ranch. And Mrs. Johnson kept up that friendship, and Carol Channing and Liz Carpenter were buddies, and Liz Carpenter became my mentor. So she was always having me do something for Carol, and.
Yeah, show me that.
Yeah, we had a party in our home one time for Carol.
Let me see what they got
here
there.
Is
that is an LP from I guess that's the original production of Hello Dolly that Carol Channing starred in, and there's an inscription on there. Do you mind reading that inscription for us?
It says, "For wonderful Martha, with grateful love and kisses, Carol Channing."
Nice,
awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. When I lived in New York, and Hello Dolly was on Broadway, I stood through the show, I don't know how many times, because I couldn't afford a ticket to sit down, and it was like $25 to stand up or something. And, and then she was a guest on Password, but little did I know, years later, she would become a best friend.
Isn't that funny?
That's so neat. Yeah. And this picture that we want to show of you with Carol and with your husband and with Lady Bird, correct?
No, it's Liz Carpenter.
Oh, with Liz Carpenter.
Liz Carpenter.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great picture.
Do you remember what particular incident that was taken at?
Well, yes. The Carol Channing, the Fairmont Hotel had a showroom, and they'd have big stars entertain in the showroom. And so Carol was a guest there. I think maybe it was their last before they shut down the showroom. And so Liz had us have a press party at our house for Carol before that show. And we had a parrot at the time that we had gotten in Mexico, I think, named Dolly. Oh. And our parrot sang Hello Dolly.
You're kidding.
And so when Carol came in the kitchen to sit down, and she never ate anybody's food. She traveled with her own, and she sat down with her big velvet bag and got food out and ate it. We introduced her to the bird. Do you think that bird would sing "Hello, Dolly" to Carol Channing? No way. Just like a kid that won't do it.
The bird would not perform.
On command. Yeah, as soon as she left, I bet she just started singing it left and right. That's fascinating. They kept you were meant to be friends with Carol Channing. It was unavoidable if you start naming your pets. So, tell me real quick. You had a list earlier that we were talking of all the different celebrities you've met there when you were working on the Password Show. Do you mind sharing a little bit more of those names?
Oh, well, yeah, I'll be happy to. One of them was Lucille Ball, who was Lucille Ball all the time. And I suddenly realized my job was to entertain the celebrities before the show. I realized I was talking to Carol Channing about putting braces on her daughter. Hello.
That's crazy.
What a great thing, to talk about.
I mean, Lucille Ball, Carol Channing, JFK.
Arthur Godfrey, Peter Lawford, James and Gloria Stewart, Dean Martin, and Jerry Lewis.
I have to ask, Peter Lawford being the famed womanizer, did he try to hit on you?
Well, no, because he had his girlfriend with him at the show that day.
Okay.
They sent me across the street to pick up a bottle of whatever it was he drinks. And it came a big rainstorm. And I got soaking wet. And so the costume director put me in Carol Channing's rehearsal dress because my clothes were wet.
Wow.
Oh, now that's really cool.
That was my first night.
Wow.
That was your first night on the job?
On the job.
Okay. And you were like, well, it's already, the adventure begins.
I mean, New York welcomed her big time. Wow. That is great.
That was making me laugh.
So that's awesome. All these celebrities you got to meet. Real quick, I want to get into your fascinating work with your PR firm. You started that in 1982. Tell me what motivated you to get that going.
No company would make me vice president of public relations.
You were already in the PR industry. Tell me,
Right.
what were you doing immediately before you started your own thing?
Well, in PR.
In
When I
PR.
came to Dallas, I
Okay.
started doing PR for some reason.
And I noticed you have you've represented a lot of hotels. Was that just organic, or
It just happened.
It just happened.
It just
that way?
happened.
Okay.
Hotels and restaurants and retailers and individuals and designers.
Explain a little bit what your company does. Like, explain to me like I'm a second grader. I don't know what. Like if I were to come to Martha Tiller and say, "Can you help me?"
Basically, it's reputation management, which is kind of a new term
Yeah.
for public relations
Yeah.
because everybody has a reputation and some people have a better one than others.
Lila, she looked right at you when she said that. I don't want to say anything, but she looked right at you.
I'm not going to say anything either.
Okay. All right. And so, like, for example, a restaurant who's maybe opening would need to set the standard of what their kind of reputation is going to be in the area before they get.
There are a lot of things you have to do. And of course, in today's world, you have to consider the social media aspect, which you didn't have to do back in the day. But marketing is still just a big pie, and there are different pieces of the pie.
Right. How have you been able to adapt? I mean, when you started out in the industry, there was none of this internet, none of this computers.
No,
So
not really.
And I think that a lot of people, as their failure, they fail to adapt to where the industry goes. And you've obviously had no issue with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know enough about social media to be dangerous.
Yeah.
But I know enough to know when I need more than what I know, I bring it in.
Can you give me an example of a catastrophic experience where you had to come in and maybe save someone's reputation or not save it,
Like
salvage it or something that you feel comfortable with? Or maybe you can just be industry specific without naming a name.
Well, let me give you an incident. I was handling the opening of the Westin Hotel at the Galleria.
Mhm.
Okay. So they wanted something over the top. And I had hired for them the Black Horse Patrol. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a group of doctors and lawyers who have a hobby of riding horses.
Okay.
And they all own a black horse. And they appear here and there and so forth in shows.
Okay.
And so I'd hired the Black Horse Patrol to come over the bridge to the hotel,
Mhm.
to do a performance, among other things. Okay. That day was the day that Braniff Airlines went belly up.
Oh, goodness.
What was that, 82 or 81?
No, it was probably 83 or 84.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So it was that day.
It was that day. Well, of course, there was no news anywhere about anything
Right.
but Brandon
Brandon.
that day. So, in our business, there are multiple happenings like that. You never know.
And you have to think quick on your
So
feet.
you just have to be prepared.
Yeah. What did you do in that particular situation?
Don't ask.
Okay. Well, you said, I mean, you lived a fascinating life and you're such an inspiration. I want to ask, what advice would you give to younger girls that are trying to get in this field or any field that are, you know?
It applies today, and it applied to everybody who came to work for me. And by the way, one of those young women is in the Dallas City Council, and I think she may run for mayor. She worked for 2 mayors, and I happily told both of them I taught her everything she knows.
Well, then she was
So
definitely
I
Who
gave her
are you-
this book,
Who is that? Are you able to say?
Paula Blackman.
Okay.
Oh,
She
okay.
just got reelected she has to term out. So
Yeah. Well,
she's
wow.
very smart, very bright.
Well, she,
Anyway, I gave Paula this book and a lot of young women. Okay. Think like a man, act like a lady, and work like a dog. This book was published in 1979. It cost $6.95 at that time. And it has incredible advice. It still holds up. One of them says hemline, and I'm going to give advice now to any young woman who's listening. Pay careful attention to the length of your skirts. In most fashion years, if your hemlines are too short, you'll be mistaken for your boss's secretary. If they're too long, you'll be mistaken for your boss's mother. I rest my case on hemlines.
well, I mean, you're such an inspiration. I have 3 daughters, and I would love to have them come just follow you around for a day and just
Get them this book.
I will. I'm
Get 'em that
definitely going to
book.
get them
Yeah.
that
Go to the
book.
second
What
prize
brought you
book.
to that book? How'd you find that book? Or
Well, I don't know. Maybe somebody gave it to me, but I just
Yeah.
loved it. So I
Yeah.
bought
You
a bunch
stand
of
by
them,
it.
and I
Yeah.
hand them out.
Yeah.
It's still true.
yes, it is.
Today.
I mean, the title
You
says
tell
it
your
all.
daughters about hemlines, please.
I will definitely tell them about hemlines. Lila, what a fascinating life. Do you have anything you want to ask her before we get to our
Well,
5 questions?
No, I want to ask the first question of the 5
I think
questions.
we're going to call this segment "Let's Cover It."
Let's okay.
You like
Okay.
that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do like
So
that.
this is you're the first person we've used this. Let's cover it.
Let's
with
cover
Martha
it. Oh, I
Tiller.
like
Okay.
that.
So we asked all of our guests 5 questions that we think are very relative to Dallas. We want to get your opinion, and you tell us what your answers are to these. The first one is, I'll go first. The first one is, what is your favorite Tex-Mex restaurant here in Dallas?
That's a good question.
Yes.
Well, my favorite is Dos Mesas on McKinney Avenue.
Okay.
And you know what Dos Mesas means. It means 12 tables.
I do.
Well, I like this because the food is exceptionally good, but also the founder, Miko Rodriguez, is my client.
Okay. Well, then.
So thank you for giving me the opportunity to promote Miko.
Of course.
Yes, from
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what he's doing.
It has the best. Have you been there?
No,
All right.
no, it's on my list.
I'll take you all. It has the best guacamole anybody's ever had. Everybody I take there goes on about the guacamole. I don't know what they do to it, but it's exceptional.
Okay, now I really, because I love some good
Yeah,
guacamole,
My wife
so I'm ready.
is a guacamole connoisseur, so we definitely have to go check that out. Now,
Yeah.
what is your go-to dish at a Tex-Mex restaurant?
Well, I like the taco salad.
Taco salad.
It's-
Okay.
Not like anything you've ever had.
Do they make a beef and a chicken taco salad, or just the
no,
beef?
it's just beef.
Okay.
But they also have compositions, and they've got 5 different composed. You'll get 3 items. You can get a taco,
so
an
you
enchilada.
can mix and match
yeah.
as you wish.
And that's
Okay.
good.
That
That's
is
very
good.
good,
You can
too.
change it up a little every time.
All right.
All right, you go next.
All right.
Lila.
Okay. I think I'm going to go there Friday night because I have plans
Okay,
with a
that's
girlfriend
deal.
of mine
That's a deal.
on Friday, and I was just yesterday. I was thinking, where are we going to go? And I want to go. Okay. Second question. I'm very excited to ask you this because I love this type of cuisine. What is your favorite barbecue place? What's your go-to barbecue place and your go-to barbecue order there?
Well, without a doubt, it's Sammy's Barbecue down by the Fed.
Yes, I love Sammy's. I can never remember the name
Yeah, you were trying to figure
ever.
it out,
I,
yeah.
I just always say it's behind the Federal Reserve building. And I've been going there. I remember going there the first time I went there was like 92 or 93. It's been a long time dating myself, but I love their squash casserole. I love I generally would get like 2 meats, like chopped beef and maybe chicken or maybe just chopped beef. And I love their sides. And I think I love restaurants with a gimmick. And I guess you wouldn't call this a gimmick, but they're only open at lunch because at dinner time, they always have parties and private events.
Weddings.
Yeah. And I call it a hidden little gem. But for those of us that have lived here in Dallas a long time, most of us know Sammy's.
Well, I know about Sammy's because the gentleman who founded it, who's now deceased, but he and his family lived across the street from us when we lived on Shenandoah. And their son now, who's the age of our son, is running Sammy's. So I like to go in because I get a hug.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
As well as a meal.
Yeah.
Twofer. It's a twofer there. I'm glad
love that
that
place.
someone confirmed that there was actually a barbecue restaurant in downtown Dallas because I'm starting to worry that you were imagining stuff. She couldn't remember the name.
I couldn't. When we interviewed Gordon, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
"It's behind the Federal Reserve building," and and I couldn't remember the name. Sammy's. I
Put it in your phone.
I
Sammy's.
need
Yes,
to. I
yes,
need to because for
Sammy's.
years I just can never remember the name, but I know exactly where it is.
Okay. Number 3 here is I'm very interested to get your perspective on this one because of the people you've known. In your opinion, Martha, was the JFK assassination done by a lone gunman or was there a conspiracy involved?
Lone gunman.
Lone gunman. And you have close ties to the JFK Museum, don't you?
Well, I'm become great friends with them. I love them. Their director is an incredible young woman, a young English woman, but
Right.
she's doing a fabulous job.
Now, without litigating the whole case again, why do you say lone gunman? Any particular reason?
Well, I mean, there's been so many historians have done a lot of digging, and President Trump has just recently had all of those files released, and I think historians are still digging, and they haven't found anything. Now, who knows the influence
Right.
that Oswald might have had, because he'd been a lot of interesting places of recent before that. But I mean, they just.
Now, what's so fascinating is I was a conspiracy theorist, but every time we have a guest on, I've become less and less of a conspiracy theorist because they lay out logic. I think I'm one of those people that just wanted to believe there was something.
There was more to it.
But,
Well, have you been to the 6th floor museum?
oh yes, I'm somewhat of a JFK buff. I'm really interested in the assassination. I've read numerous books and have gone to the museum several times. So.
Good for you. They
But-
have wonderful exhibits
Oh
and
my gosh,
programs.
fascinating! I could spend all.
I have a
day
friend
there.
who works
Yeah.
there. She really
Yeah.
enjoys
And
working
And
you
I
there.
think it's terrific. I love the whole staff. I did it. They asked me to do an oral history
Right.
about the Madison Square Garden party because they said we don't have that part of Kennedy's history.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that, and I thought, wow, that's kind of a big thing not to have any
I
history
know.
on. So thank goodness they knew you had
And
it.
Martha was just there winging it like it's no big deal.
I
Just
know.
just a New Yorker.
I was there,
just
and I was
having-
about 10 feet away from him.
Yeah.
And- okay, I'm going to ask the next question.
Two.
Who do you feel has been the most influential Dallas Cowboys coach? Who is the icon for you of all the Dallas Cowboys coaches that there have been? And there haven't been 15, but there haven't only been 2 or 3 either.
Don't say Chan Gailey.
But maybe she wanted to.
Well, the first in anything normally sets the tone.
I agree.
So it
Okay.
has to be Tom Landry.
Has
Yes.
to be Tom Landry.
Yes.
There's no Jimmy Johnson or anybody else.
If
Dave
there
Campbell,
wasn't,
there's
if
not-
there wasn't Tom.
the standard will not set. Like Martha has set the standard.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
For sure. Yeah.
I definitely
Right.
agree with that.
Okay, last one, then we'll let you get out of here, Martha. In your opinion, and I'm going to ask this simple question, and you just take it where you want to. Who represents Dallas to you?
An individual.
One individual.
Well, it has to be J.R. Ewing.
Wow.
That's
three. What is it? 3, 4, all of them. Everybody is
Really?
No one
Yes,
is
that's
diverted.
amazing.
yeah, really.
That is amazing. And for different reasons. Some people because you personally knew Larry Hagman, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that might play a part in the reason she.
And for our listeners and our watchers, these 5 questions, we don't say, we don't give you those, our guests, ahead of time.
We should.
So you don't know that we're going to ask you this question. But it's fascinating to me that all of our guests up to this point have said
Right.
J.R. Ewing.
Yeah.
It has to be.
That is
Yeah.
fascinating to me. Tell us why. For you, tell us why.
Well, I just didn't bring them today, but I have pictures sitting on Larry Hagman's lap 20 years apart, the same pose, because Andy Hansen, the beloved photographer from the Dallas Times-Herald, who of course came to all my events, had me sit on his lap. But it's a long story, but I ended up in 3 episodes, I believe,
Wow.
of Dallas.
Of 3 episodes.
As an extra.
Okay. Did you have a speaking part in any of the 3?
No, as extra.
Just as an extra walking by or in the background or what have you?
Well, it was for the Oil Barons Ball.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Awesome.
Okay. That is, and
That's fascinating.
when you would go anywhere outside of Texas, not nearby, or internationally, did you have a lot of people that you would talk to at that time say, "Oh, do you know JR?"
That's all anybody wanted to talk about.
Is that really?
We
really?
happened to be in London the summer between the segments of Who Shot JR. That's all anybody wanted to talk about. Whether it was a person that we were introduced to, it was a clerk in a store, a taxi driver. It didn't matter. They wanted to
It's
talk
just
about
what they
JR.
want to. Isn't that funny?
I have to tell a quick story that will date me, at least all of us, I think. But that summer that they were going to release, or the hiatus when they were going to come back in the fall and announce who had shot JR, they had also opened the casket for Lee Harvey Oswald, if not mistaken, that same summer. So the joke around the time was that when they opened up the casket of Lee Harvey Oswald to exhume the body, there was a note in there that said, "I shot JR."
Oh, oh my God.
Yeah. Well,
that was when they revealed that Kristen, and I'm not giving anything away. It's been
Lila.
look, it's been 45
Way to
years
go, Lila.
because it was November 21st,
You cannot keep a
1980,
secret.
and you know
cannot
what?
keep a secret.
But you know why I know that date? That was the date of my bat mitzvah.
Ah,
They and I had a joke with the rabbi. He didn't really like the joke too much, but I said, I don't know if anybody's going to show up for my bat mitzvah there, because this was way pre VCR, right? And I said, well, I don't know if anybody's going to show up for my bat mitzvah. They want to know who shot JR. And my rabbi didn't really like that joke too much, but I liked it.
I would have come to your bat mitzvah.
You would?
Yeah.
You would have
After the
skipped
episode,
it?
I would have come late after I found out who shot JR.
No, thanks.
Martha was bragging about her 2 pictures with very happy. I told her, I don't want to brag on her, but I had a poster of Charlotte Tilton back in the day.
Bragging.
She wasn't bragging. You can't brag when you live the life she's lived. Anyway, Martha, thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to be with us.
We really appreciate it.
We could go on all day with the stories that you have and the life you've lived. You are indeed a legend here in Dallas, so it's been an honor and a pleasure.
You're a treasure.
You are a treasure.
I mean, you are, and you're
you're
so well. I mean, this past weekend, I saw, because we're friends on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night, you were at DIFA, Design Industry Foundation, Fighting AIDS, their annual collection.
Outdid himself. It was incredible.
Yes, I saw all of your pictures. You were at that special formal show. And then I see your post yesterday, and you were at Miko's, his new restaurant.
Cocina's, 5 Kitchens.
Yeah. I mean, and then I know when we're recording this on Cinco de Mayo on May 5th, and you're going to be busy tonight. I mean, do you ever take a nap?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that was quick.
I don't have time for naps or games.
Okay.
like that. Now I know why you're friends with Lila.
Yeah.
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 Well, Martha, thank you again, and I look forward to. You're welcome back anytime. I look forward to
Thank
talking to you. Okay. Thank you. You have a good rest of your
Y'all
day.
are doing
Okay.
a
Thank you,
great
Martha.
job.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, listeners and viewers.
Oh, and tell them
And
about that. Go ahead and they can tell. They can ask us questions. Where?
you can send us questions. You can send us suggestions, comments at info@nwagencies.com. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see at the bottom of the screen the email address to send it to, info@nwagencies.com. We've gotten a lot of fan email.
Blowing up.
It's they've complimented me, Mark, but
We're
I'm not going to tell you what they've said about
I don't
you.
want to say anything. We're gonna have to get a new server because of the emails coming in. So
I know,
fast.
I know. And thank you for all the very nice compliments to me. And for those of you that have made fun of Mark, you've seen my emails
Keep 'em
back.
coming. I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you. All right, that's it for us, and we'll be back next time on Beyond the Policy, covering everything Dallas.
All right.